Once again, ladies and gentlemen, I am using Windows 8 Release Preview, and it has been absolutely flawless. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Corporate Vice President, Windows Web Services, Antoine Leblond.
All right, good morning, everyone. Thanks for coming. I know this is a little bit of an early start maybe for a tech conference, so thanks for getting out here. I hope DJ DMZ there helped you get the blood flowing a little bit. Kind of cool that he's running the consumer preview of Windows 8 on his laptop there. That's pretty exciting. So in yesterday's keynote, Satya talked a lot about Windows Server and Windows Azure, sort of the cloud infrastructure and the on-premises infrastructure that runs businesses. Today we're going to talk about the third leg of enterprise infrastructure, and that's the desktop. So we're going to talk about Windows 8. We have quite a variety of folks in the room today. Actually, we have a lot of folks in the room today, which is pretty cool. So we have some people who actually know quite a bit about Windows 8. We have some folks who know almost nothing about Windows 8 and haven't really had a chance to try it or see it yet. We have a lot of developers in the room, which is great. We have some folks who do not write code, have never written code, and have no intention to write code, and will want to get up when I boot Visual Studio a little bit later in my demo. Please stay seated. I promise no more than about 5 to 7 minutes of Visual Studio time. What we're going to do is we have about an hour and 15 minutes, and we're going to cover a lot of territory. So what I'm going to try and do is give you a little bit of context, behind Windows 8. We're going to do a fairly extensive demo of the product, and while we're demoing, we're going to show you a bunch of really cool business apps that folks have already been writing for Windows 8. And then we're going to talk a little bit about how you build those apps. And then finally, we're going to talk about how you deploy and manage those applications. And there's kind of three things that I want you to get out of this. The first one is I hope you'll leave here really excited about Windows 8. We're certainly excited about the product we're working on and building, and I hope you'll really love it, and I'm sure you will. The second thing is I hope to maybe inspire you a little bit to think about the kinds of applications that you could be building for Windows 8. Part of what we're going to do with these apps that we show you is we're going to try and actually show you a variety of different types of apps. So apps that maybe businesses are building for their employees, apps that businesses are building for their customers, apps that line of business ISVs are building for their customers and things like that. So we'll show you a variety and hopefully inspire you a little bit with that. And then the last thing I want you to leave with is just the knowledge that Windows 8 is enterprise ready by design, okay? So the best way to talk about Windows 8 is to start by talking about the context within which we designed it. And that context, of course, starts with Windows 7. So Windows 7, that's, when we started working on Windows 8, we were sort of at the end of the product cycle for Windows 7. So it was about 2.5 to 3 years ago and about to release the product. And the product's been amazing. It's been the best and fastest selling version of Windows ever. We just actually, announced that we've sold now over 600 million licenses of Windows 7, which is just an incredible number. So it's a really, really great product. But if you think about its origins, it's really rooted in the last big generational change of Windows we made. And that's Windows 95. Right now, of course, we've made thousands and thousands of improvements over the years, over the 15 or so years since Windows 95. But fundamentally, if you think of things like the architecture, the app platform, the UI, things, notably things like the start menu and things like that, all of those things, they come to us from Windows 95. So the question is, how much has the world that Windows 7 was built on changed since then? Well, things have changed. They've changed a lot. So the question really then is, what does that mean for what we expect from our PCs? What does it mean, take mobility, what does it mean that we've gone from this world where basically all of our PCs used to be desktops? There were laptops around, but basically those were more like transportable desktops and they were real laptops. They had batteries, but the battery life was so terrible that you just plug them in one place, use them, and then move them somewhere else. We've gone from that world to a world where this year, over 75% of the PCs that consumers in the US are going to buy are laptops, where the projections are that next year, tablets will outsell desktop PCs. It's a fundamental change in how you think about the software that you write for those PCs. And the reason is that we're going to go from PCs that are plugged into the wall. It's not about portability, really. It's about the fact that they're plugged into the wall and have an infinite source of power, to a world where the majority of the PCs that are running off of a battery. I worked on Office for years, and we used to talk a lot and think a lot about, gosh, how much work can we offload to the idle process, right? So that when you're not actually typing in Word, we can do things like paginate in the background and pre-cache things and pre-render things and stuff like that. And of course, that's exactly the right thing to do in the context of a desktop PC, where wasted CPU cycles are just wasted opportunity. But on a machine that's running off of battery, you want to do exactly the opposite. In fact, in Word or something like that, ideally what you'd want to do is get the CPU state down to 0 between keystrokes if you could, because every microwatt of power you save is just battery life that's extended. It's a fundamental change. What about touch? What does it mean to go from a world where basically we interact with our PCs with mouse and keyboard to a world today where basically almost every device that's out there, everything that has a screen out there today, has a touch UI. And that's actually that's kind of wild, because that's actually not the last, that's something that's happened fairly quickly. If you think back of, about 4 years ago, a lot of people were saying, this iPhone thing, it's gonna be kind of a niche product because it doesn't have a keyboard. Only a couple million people are gonna wanna use something that only has a touch screen. Go to your cell phone provider store today and tell me how many keyboard-based phones are out there. Think of every device with a screen. I was at the airport yesterday, I checked in at a kiosk with a touchscreen. You go to the ATM, it's got a touchscreen. My watch has a touchscreen on it, right? Touchscreens are coming to PCs. At Computex last week, I don't know if anyone followed the news from Computex. Computex is the big hardware conference that's in Taiwan every year. All the OEMs, all the PC OEMs, all showed tons of devices that had touchscreens on them. Laptops, tablets, all-in-ones, monitors, standalone monitors that have touch. Touch is coming to PCs, and it changes the way you interact with your device radically. What does it mean to come from a world where connectivity means going to your PC in the morning, flipping it on, connecting to the network, syncing your email, doing your work all day long, and then disconnecting from the network at the end of the day, to a world where connectivity is ubiquitous, almost. Think of Wi-Fi networks being available everywhere. Think of mobile broadband being available anywhere. Just like your phone can stay connected all the time, your PC can stay connected all the time now. That's a radical change in how you think about being connected to things. Content. We go from a world where you store your content on your local disk, on your machine, to a world where your content is just splattered everywhere. I've got content on my local disk, I've got content that I sync with other machines, I've got content stored in storage services in the cloud like SkyDrive and Dropbox, Office 365, things like that, to content that's stored in all these other sort of one-off services, photos stored in Facebook or in Flickr, videos stored in YouTube and things like that. My content is all over the place. What's it mean to go from a world where the work I did on my PCs was all about documents and databases, right? It was about content authoring and things like that, to a world where we still do all those things, but we also spend an incredible amount of time just sharing and communicating and interacting with people, where PCs have become a first-class human interaction tool. It's a dramatic difference in how we use our PCs. And finally, what does it mean to go from a world where there's this hard split between what I do at home with my technology and what I do at work with my technology? In fact, what I do at home and what I do at work in general. You can probably all relate to this. There used to be a hard split. Now, you know what? You do work at home. You do home things at work. You want to be able to take the technology that you have at home and bring it into work. No one wants to be carrying the 2 cell phones on their bat belt anymore. No one wants to be carrying, have a home laptop and a work laptop. Big difference even in how we live our lives there. We collectively have reimagined the way we use technology in our daily lives, and we've reimagined what we expect from our PCs. So with Windows 8, we've reimagined Windows. From the chipset to the experience, Windows 8 takes the best of Windows 7 and looks forward to a world of new devices, new apps, new experiences, and all sorts of new things like that. We've built it for the billion people who use PCs today, which is an incredible number, and for the next billion people who are going to use them in the future. We've reimagined Windows. We've reimagined the user experience so that it's beautiful, it's fast, it's fluid, it's full screen, and it's immersive. We've reimagined the way Windows talks to hardware so that it works on an even broader range of machines than it ever has, from super high-end desktops with multi-processors, 4 monitors, liquid-cooled everything, and all that business, all the way down to these just incredible small, light, long battery life tablets that are built on these system-on-chip designs from ARM and Intel. We've reimagined the way apps work so that they're not in a silo anymore, so that they work together, so that every app you add to your system not only makes your system better, but makes all the other apps that are on your system better. And then we've reimagined connectivity so that your PC works just like your phone, so that you're always connected to your people, to your files, to your apps. Windows 8 is a bold new bet, and it's a generational change in Windows. But here's the thing, it's still Windows. In fact, one of the things that we like to say is that Windows 8, first and foremost, is a better Windows than Windows 7. And what do we mean by that? Well, first of all, it means that we've done a ton of work just on the fundamentals, right? The things that make an OS that make a great OS great. So things like performance and memory footprint, the file system, connecting to devices, even basics like copying files around and things like that. We've improved all of those things over Windows 7. It also means that all of the things that you could do with Windows before, you could still do with Windows 8. So the logoed PC that you've got today that's running Windows 7 will be able to run Windows 8 just as well, if not better than it did Windows 7. It means that the devices that you plug into your PC today will work with Windows 8. It means that the apps you run today will still work with Windows 8. And it also means that you don't have to compromise. With Windows 8, you can pick a tablet or a laptop or a desktop. You could pick a machine that has mouse and keyboard, or a machine that has touch, or a machine that has all three. Windows 8 works equally well in a managed environment or an unmanaged environment. It means that it also works as well in a mixed environment of Windows 8 machines with Windows 7 machines with different versions of Windows like that, as it does in just a uniform one. And it also means that you don't have to choose like you do today. You don't have to choose between a small, thin, and light tablet or being able to run the apps that you use every day. You don't have to choose between all-day battery life or being able to connect to your enterprise infrastructure. You don't have to choose between the device that you want at home and the device that you're allowed to use at work. What it means is that you can have a Windows PC without having to compromise. So let's have a look. We're going to do a demo. Before I do that, it is worth noting one of the hallmarks of Windows has always been just the range of hardware that it works on. And on that table over there, we have some kind of neat examples of hardware from some of our partners. We have these are all PCs that you can buy today, by the way. We have this great all-in-one. There's a tablet there in the middle. There's a handful of these Ultrabooks, which are these wonderful new lightweight laptops. I'm going to, when we do our demos today, we're actually going to demo on a range of hardware like that. I'm going to start with, by using this PC here. This is a Samsung Series 7 tablet. You can actually go buy this today. You can buy one with Windows 7 on it. It's a really nice machine. It has an Intel Core i5 processor in it. It has a 128 gig SSD. It's a really fast and nice, and it's a great machine for running Windows 8. So I'm going to start over here on this site. I've got one docked here that we can look at, so hopefully we can switch over to that machine. So here I am in, this is the lock screen for Windows 8. So right away you can tell if things look a little bit different and new. Not only is it beautiful, but it's also useful, and it's also personal and useful. It has some information for me. If you look down at the bottom, I can see things about the state of my machine, like the battery life and the connectivity, but I can also see things that are relevant to me. So things like the number of unread email messages I have, maybe what my next meeting is or something like that. If you notice here, I'm touching the screen, and you can tell, I don't know if you see these little round things, I've actually turned on touch feedback here so you can actually see what I'm doing with my fingers, because this is a touch-only device. This is part of the challenge with demoing touch devices, but hopefully this should help you follow up. So follow what I'm doing. So I'm going to unlock this PC here just by swiping up, and I've actually chosen to protect my PC with a password. What I'm using here is something we call a picture password, where I can use a secret set of gestures instead of using a PIN or using an actual alphanumeric password. And it's a really useful thing to do on a device that doesn't have a keyboard. So I'm going to share my little secret with you here. To unlock this one, I'm just going to swipe down this ridge, and then just tap the peak there. It's a really easy way to just log into a machine that doesn't have a keyboard on it.